In this video, we're going to be creating a scoring system for the player. Our scoring system is going to consist of 4 items. We need a way to track our score, we need a way to change our score, the game needs to know when to change our score, and we need a way to show our score to the player. So let's get started. First thing we want to do is give ourselves a way to track our score. So go ahead and open up first person game mode. And all we're going to do is click plus variable, add a variable named score, and set it to an integer. That's how we're going to keep track of our score. Now, how are we going to change our score? Well, let's make a new event, also in the first person game mode. So right click, add a custom event, and name it add score. And we'll give it an input. We'll name this input amount and make it an integer. This event will increase our score by whatever we set amount to. So let's add the logic for that. Drag off of amount, hit plus, click on integer plus integer, and drag score into the bottom. So this number is going to be whatever number we set amount to plus our current score. And we want to drag in score and click set, and we'll set score to this number. Our current score plus this amount equals our new score, and connect white to white. So now we can track our score, we can change our score, but now the game needs to know when to change our score. So before we make the logic for that, let's think. When do we want to change our score? Well, we want to change our score when we take out a robot, but only when we take out a robot by shooting it. So let's go into our BP AI. So go back to the main screen, content, third person BP, blueprints, BP AI. So the first thing we need to do is figure out where in this logic we are killing the BP AI by shooting it. Well, we did that in our actor begin overlap event right there. This block is checking to make sure that the thing overlapping our BP AI is one of the shots from our gun. This gets rid of the shot. These blocks are checking to see if the robot is out of health, and if it is, these 2 blocks kill it. So these are the blocks that we're looking for. Or more specifically, this is the block that we're looking for. So after we've killed the BP AI, we want to add to our score. So we will drag in GM behind this second die, click get, drag off of GM, and type add score. And we will connect the white arrow coming out of add score to whatever die is currently connected to. And we'll connect die to add score. Right, so give me just 1 second to reorganize all this stuff. Just gonna slide all this over. Bring this down. All right. So now when we shoot a bot and it runs out of health, we destroy the bot and then we increase our score. But how much are we increasing our score by? Well, right now it's 0. So what we want to do is we want to create a variable within BP AI called value. And we'll set that to be an integer. We will drag value into amount. And now whatever we set the value to is how much our score will increase by. To set the value, you just compile, click value, and set it to some default number. After which you'll need to compile again. So we can track our score, we can change our score, our game knows when to change our score, but now we need some sort of a way to show our score to the player. So for that, we'll go back to the main screen, content, first person BP, blueprints, and BP UI, the same BP UI that we made in the last video. This time we're going to add in a text. I'll make it a little bigger. And this text is going to be showing us what our score is. So the first thing we want to do, if you look, you can notice the actual text that you're looking at, very, very small. So let's increase the font size to about 50. The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our text is actually saying what we want it to say. What do we want it to say? Score, and then your score. So to do that, under content, next to text, click bind and create binding. Now before we can show our score, we need to know what our score is. But before we can do that, since we're keeping track of our score in our first person game mode, we need a reference to our first person game mode. So right click, dang it. So before we can show our score, we have to know what our score is. We're keeping track of our score in our first-person game mode blueprint, so we need a reference to our first-person game mode before we can actually show the score. So let's get a reference to our first-person game mode. Right-click, type get game mode, drag off of the blue and type in cast to first person game mode. And that's going to give us a reference to our first person game mode where we're actually storing our score. So now we want to drag off of as first person game mode and type in get score. Now we don't want to just plug score into here because then we won't get the word score. To do that, what we want to do is right click and type in make literal string. Now what does this block do? Well, it creates a literal string. What's a literal string? A string is just a sequence of characters. It's a bunch of letters and numbers, punctuation marks, etc., etc. A literal string is where you type in exactly what you want to say as opposed to getting something from, say, a variable. If you think about in old Zelda games, and by old I mean anything older than Breath of the Wild, where you could name Link whatever you actually wanted to name him, and the game would say, hi, whatever you named Link. I would always name him Silver. So they would say, hi, Silver, instead of hi, Link. That's not a string literal, because they're getting the name from a variable. In Breath of the Wild, though, they always say Link. That is a literal string. It's hard-coded into the game. Link. He will never be called anything other than Link, no matter what you want to call him. So that's what a literal string is. So what do we want to set our literal string to? Well, we want to drag off of the value here and type append. And basically what append will do is it'll make a new string by sticking B onto the back of A. So we want A to be our score, or no, not our score. We want it to be the word score plus a colon plus a space. Not sure if you can see that, but there's a space there. If you don't have that space, the game won't have that space when you play it. And we want our score, we want our actual score to be B. the last thing we want to do is connect return value to return value. We want to connect the return value out of make literal string to the return value on return node. Then we want to connect white to white. Connect return node to cast the first person game mode. I'll compile, I'll save, and I'll test. So you can see down in the corner, we can see my score. But now we need to make sure that my score is updating. Let's see. And you can see that when I take out a bot, I earn 100 points. When I take out another one, I earn another 100. For a total of 200 points now. And the more bots I take out, the more points I earn. So now our entire scoring system is fully functional. The last thing we're going to show you in this video is how to take the UI elements we've made in the past two videos and put them into your game. So if I hit play right now, you can see I've actually taken the UI elements out of my game. My game is running, but my health bar is gone, my score isn't showing, all of my UI elements are gone. So to put those in, all we do is double click on first person HUD to open it, and you should see something like this. If you just see a list, there should be some blue text right about here that says open full blueprint editor. Click on that and it'll take you here. If you see this or this, just click on the tab that says event graph. So you can see here we only have this one event, and it ends with this big old block that says draw texture. We want to drag off of the white arrow in draw texture, type create widget, and we will set the class to BPUI, drag off of return value, and type add to viewport, compile, save, and boom, my health bar and my score are back. So that's actually all the assets we need for this game created. The only thing left for you guys now is to go and make your level look however you want it to look. I would recommend making a much larger level. Either that or slowing down the robots quite a bit, because they move pretty fast and they come from everywhere. But yeah, that's this game basically created. I don't know how to end this one.